You're fighting Illini, 3-0. Locked on Illini. Let's go.
You are Locked on Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another live recap episode of Locked on Illini. Now, this was a game I had to watch on my phone because, unfortunately, I have friends who don't believe in not having weddings on fall Saturdays. But from what I saw on my phone, there was a lot that I liked. There was a lot that I am a little bit concerned about. This is going to be, as I did last week, this is just kind of a community show. Let me know. You guys probably watched the game as well. I want to hear what you guys think. What are your comments? Obviously, nice victory over the Central Michigan Chippewas. Luke looked great. Defensive line looked fantastic. The offensive line, I'm still a little bit concerned about, and I'm even more concerned about it coming up, considering Friday we're going to be playing against Nebraska and their defensive line. If we had troubles with Central Michigan, I fear what that Nebraska Cornhusker defensive line is going to do to us. But again, please let me know. This episode is going to be brought to you by Robinhood, it looks like. So thank you, Robinhood, for giving me the opportunity to go live. Okay, so 30-9 victory over Central Michigan. Homecoming game, technically, but I think most folks are looking at the Michigan game as being the actual homecoming game. Again, they look good. I think some of us saw that Kansas result, and I'm talking about the game from Friday night. And I don't know about you, but that made me a little more worried about how good this Illini team is. I want to be happy with 3-0, of course, 3-0. That's fantastic. But if Kansas loses to a team like UNLV, then how good of a win was ours over them? The offensive side of the football still doesn't look great. I know we scored 30 points, but in that first half, we seem to always, our first drive, whatever our first drive is, always ends up in points. But beyond that, we tend to struggle a little bit. Maybe, Malcolm, you're right. He says Illinois is almost certainly holding back. Maybe that's it. I hope that's it, because we know how big of a game that matchup against Nebraska is going to be. But again, with some of the play calling that Barry Lynn Jr. had in that first half just had me a little perplexed. Andre says, watching from Wisconsin. Thank you, Andre. I watched the game from New Jersey. I'm in New Jersey right now. I'm in a hotel. I actually snuck up real quick in between the festivities to try to do a live show for you guys, because I know how much you guys enjoyed it last time. Player of the game for me. What do you guys think? Luke had. Oh wait, no. This is player of the game's easy. It's Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant. When was the last time that Illinois had two NFL wide receivers on their team? I'm trying to think. Well, actually, last year, Casey Washington and Isaiah Williams. But it's a nice luxury to have. Let's put it that way. Look at me correcting myself. It's been one whole year. Pat Bryant's he's a dude, and he's going to cause the defenses on the opposite side some real big headaches. All the concerns I had with Pat, I talked about it in some of the off-season episodes. I wasn't sure if he was going to be ready to make that leap to become a number one wide receiver, but I mean, he essentially is. He doesn't have to be, because we have Zachary Franklin on the team, who himself is a zone buster. Just another fantastic add by the staff. But we have two very, very good wide receivers. What I'm starting to get concerned about, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts too, is the wide receivers have overperformed. I don't think there's any doubt. But the running backs room, again, Caden Fagan, who, one of my bold predictions was he was going to get like 1,200 yards this year. Sure, he had a touchdown today. But he really seems like he's the type of guy who needs that 5 or 6 steps before he really, really gets going. There's no really burst at the line. Now, Khalil Valentine's different. Khalil's got those bursts. But Caden's, I don't know if I'm at the point where I'm starting to get concerned yet. But I thought that running back room was one of the rooms that we just didn't need to worry about. I thought we could ride that running back room so that it could give Luke Altmaier more time to make the right passes. Keep in mind, I was more concerned with Luke than I was the running backs. But, I mean, the offensive line has struggled. I talked about that when we kicked off the show. I'm genuinely concerned now. We're 3 games in. Was that a quarter of the season that was already over? Yeah, Malcolm, you said this exactly. Malcolm says, Fagan seems slow, maybe put on too much weight, or maybe hasn't developed the endurance for an every down back. The interior offensive line is not run blocking properly. Is the offensive line the worst performing unit we have on the team so far? I don't know if it's close, right? I mean, the defensive line hadn't really performed great the first 2 games, but they showed up today. That Central Michigan running quarterback, if he didn't make a quick throw, he was running for his life. We have Frank also says, Burt is definitely not holding back. He's getting the most out of a limited team talent-wise, but to start 3-0 is unexpected. Absolutely, Frank. That's why I don't want to, in any sort of way, feel like we should be disappointed. We need to enjoy this ride. 3-0 is 3-0. The Illini don't go 3-0 very often. In fact, I think the last time I read the stat was 2011. So I'm going to take 3-0 however you give it to me. But there's some areas of concern for me, for sure. I love the way I still think Luke is a really good quarterback if they just let him play. But without a running back, Central Michigan was selling out on the running game. And so Luke had to win the game for us today. And you know what he did? Because it's Central Michigan. The wide receivers made plays. But I don't know, is it time to give Khalil Valentine a little more carries? Now, keep in mind, folks, I watched this game on my phone with none of the announcers. And now I was following on Twitter. It sounds like the announcers missed a lot of the names, and it wasn't exactly Peacock's A-team that they gave to the Illini football game today. But, you know, from what I saw, I don't know. How do you guys feel? 30, but you know, think about this. It's a 30-9 victory, and I'm asking Illini fans how we feel. That's how far we've come along. I've got 20 of you joining me. I appreciate you. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button while you're here. I try to do this every single day. As you can see, even when I'm at a wedding, one of my best friends got married today in New Jersey. But yeah, O-line, too many penalties, and again, it's concerning for me that Central Michigan got as many sacks as they did, especially in that first half. That first half was actually very disappointing. I know we were up at halftime, and sure, that 59-yard kick, the field goal, was a nice little energy boost going into the half. But if you asked me at halftime, I didn't think we were going to lose, and I don't think we're going to lose games like this now that Brett has kind of gotten a couple years worth of recruiting in and the coaching staff. I just trust this coaching staff to beat the teams that we're supposed to beat. So, you know, I was never concerned about losing, but maybe I just had my eye on 6 days from now against Nebraska. What I wanted to see is, and truthfully, 24 hours ago, Kansas lost again to UNLV. Jalen Daniels, another bad game on his part. So now I'm just wondering, like, is it as good of a victory as I thought it was? What do you guys think? 3-0. I mean, I haven't called him out yet, but, you know, my frequent Friday guest, Kent, had us winning 2 games. So it took us 3 games to defeat, to go over Kent's total. But Xavier Scott, I joked around about it on Twitter. Send him to New York. You're talking about a guy who's playing like one of the best defensive players in the country. Another pick today. Miles Scott had a very solid game. I did see Terrence Brooks in the game, which was nice. I think he played a couple of series, at least in that second half. But yeah, 3-0, non-conference schedule. That's all you can ask for. We're halfway there to a bowl game. And I've talked about, like, that's all that we care about right now. Let's get to 6 wins. Let's make it to a bowl game. It should have been 3 years straight of making a bowl game. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. But we do have a tough schedule coming up. But that tough schedule doesn't look as tough as it did in the preseason. Michigan, I've got a couple of Michigan friends, and they are in disaster mode right now with their quarterback. I think somebody told me that their quarterback had 5 interceptions today. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can verify that for me. But they have not figured out their quarterback situation. And I know they beat a small school today, which is fine. But all of a sudden, that game is going to mean a lot more and I'm a little bit more optimistic about that game. But don't get me wrong. Obviously, the focus is going to be on Nebraska. Malcolm says there are no bad wins. Absolutely. You're right. Didn't Las Vegas predict a 20-point victory? Yeah, we got 21. Yeah. The line started at 18, finished at 21, and I took it over 20, or the minus 20. I don't know if you folks took that, thanks to FanDuel. But yeah, anything else? Positives, negatives? I'm trying to guess what that line is going to be against Nebraska on Friday. My guess would probably be 6.5 in Nebraska's favor. I think we can keep it close. It's just the offensive line. I think that's going to be the unit that I'm watching. If we can hold their defensive line, I think we have some of the players. Call this a hunch, but I really think that we might be the team that's going to rattle Dylan Raiola. Nebraska's coming off with a lot of hype, and as is Dylan, as he should be, 5-star. Of course, Cornhusker fans are over the moon over him right now. But you know what? It's a night game, Friday night game. Everybody's going to be watching that game, not for the Illini. People are going to be watching that game for Nebraska. And I just think Aaron Henry, who, by the way, guys, 3 games in to the 2024 season, and our defense is allowing 9 points a game. Another game where we allowed 0 touchdowns against Central Michigan. Now, again, it's Central Michigan, but it's still a MAC school. And 0 touchdowns is still 0 touchdowns. Remember, we got to give him his flowers. Aaron Henry has shown up this year. Barry Lenny Jr. is the one we kind of have questions about at the moment. But, as some of you said, some of you think that we might be holding back a little bit. Some of you don't think we are. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not sure. But the offensive talent is there. The running backs, we have to figure out what's wrong with Caden. If it's a Caden thing, is it a lack of burst, or if he's just not getting the hole that he needs? And if he's not, then we may have to go to a guy like Valentine, because Valentine's a little quicker. You saw it on some of his rushes today. He can, jerk here and there real quick, make a quick shift in movement. Caden can't really do that. So if the hole that's supposed to be there is not there, Caden kind of just runs into a lot of big humans, while Khalil is able to spot something out of the corner of his eye and, make a quick turn and be able to get us 5, 10, 15 yards. It's way too early to even talk about replacing your running back, especially for a guy who is as high on Caden as I was. But I'm just saying that's clearly a concern. Luke Altmaier is clearly not a concern, at least not for me. I think he continues to make the right throws. I plays mistake-free football, and that's what this team needs. When it comes to talent, especially once the Big Ten season starts, we're not going to be the more talented side in most of the games that we play. So we need to play a typical A-plus Brett Bielema game. And Luke Altmaier, he can do it with his legs. We know he can do it with his arm. And most importantly, he's just not making the turnovers that he had, at least in the early part of last season, when the offensive line was really in shambles. Now, it's not as bad this year, but it's clearly not good. And even in that situation, Luke is making the right throws. And you see that he has all the confidence in the world in his 2 studs, in Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin. I know he threw it to some of the younger kids today too. I saw that, which I appreciated. I think it was Colin Dixon who almost caught a touchdown pass, but no, that was Pat Bryant who was out of bounds. But Yeah. So Malcolm again says, I still think it's the offensive line. Both McCray and Fagan were looking about the same. I know McCray got a few runs, but even Valentine had some up the middle things that look like O-line failure. They just need to mesh. Too many new guys. Yeah, but we're a quarter of the way through the season. There's no time to mesh. Big Ten season starts literally in 6 days, and we're going to go up not even against like a poor Big Ten team, a team that looks like it's very stout on the defensive side of the field. So, all right, anything else before I wrap up? Again, I just want to come on real quick. Please, if you're watching this for the first time, I do this every day, whether I'm at home or whether I'm at a function, a work function, or like today at a wedding. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps a great deal for a channel like mine. I'll be back on Monday morning, maybe Sunday night episode. We'll see. I might do a community episode Sunday night when I go back home. But otherwise, I'll be back Monday morning with a new episode. I'll be able to watch this game a little bit more in depth with the sound on. I'll be watching it during my flight, and I'll have a more thorough analysis. But in the meantime, thank you all for joining me. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. ILL 3-0 feels oh so good. Take care, guys.